Hey guys, welcome back. So in this video, we'll be building the backend. Okay, so before that, I just want to give you a front end and back end architecture. So what does it look like and how the different types of requests take place. So from a client side, let's say we visit a particular page. So as soon as we reach the particular page, it makes a request such that it fetches some amount of information from the backend. So for example, we have slash API slash product. So anything that starts with slash API, we basically use it as a convention such that it's a making request to the backend on a different port. So suppose we are running our front end on port 3000, we can run this on port 8000 or port 5000. Okay, so that doesn't actually matter. So there are different kinds of requests that we can make a get request, which is like you're just pulling some static information by making like slash API slash products, and post is like you're providing some information along with the requests, so that's called a payload. So usually this happens when you're like trying to log in something, so that's where we use the post request. And put request is something which you basically like you want to change something, you want to update something in the on the database. So let's say you want to update your name, okay, on a particular platform, so that basically makes use of put request. And delete is like, let's say you want to delete your account, so that makes a delete request to the backend. And this is our REST API, like slash API slash product. So this is like a waiter. Okay, so this whatever we ask for goes to the database and just gets the particular thing which you are asking for. Okay, and along with that, you might require some amount of permissions, like let's say if you are only if you are logged in, you are supposed to visit this kind of page. So we have this middleware which basically acts like a between thing, like suppose if you are not authorized. Okay, so this will get to know that you're not authorized, and this will throw you an error. So middle, so also it has like various other things, like if you are trying to access something which you are not allowed to access, let's say admin routes. Okay, so that basically you must be authorized as an admin in order to access such kind of sensitive information. Okay, so that's we have a middleware, and also we have another middleware for to accept JSON responses. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So that will basically we can just send and receive information in the form of JSON, which is in the form of an object. And it's very easy to extract information using JSON. Okay, so there are various other middlewares that we can configure, and we will also be doing inside our application. Okay, and this is the server that which we will be building using Node.js and Express, which is a backend framework. Okay, and also we use something like object data modeling libraries such as Mongoose in order to communicate with the database in a very easy way. Okay, so we'll all be installing all of these packages, and we'll see in practice how does everything actually works. Okay, so the database that we'll be using is MongoDB. Of course, there are other databases like Firebase, SQL, and other relational database as well. So in the MERN stack, the M stands for MongoDB, right? So we'll be using the MongoDB, which is a non-relational database. Okay, so this is the clear-cut front-end, back-end architecture. So this is how actually it works. So when the client makes a request, it will just go to the backend using all of these things, like REST API server, and then it will fetch the information and you'll get back the particular response. Okay, so let's say you visit a page slash products. Okay, in order to get, if you want to get all of the products, you just need to make a request, and then that will go fetch in the backend, and then it will provide you with the particular response, and then you can modify it based on like whatever the response you get, and you can also style them. Okay, which we will actually be doing it. So we will be using state management libraries such as Redux in order to have a seamless, communication with the backend by making various requests, and also manage the state in various other components that we create in React. Okay, so this is all about the flow that we are going through. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create our backend. Okay, so let's go to our VS Code. Okay, and we can just close all of these tabs. Okay, and then we can just create a separate folder over here called server. okay, and inside the server I'm going to initialize the npm. Okay, so we can just open our terminal. So to initialize our npm package, so we can just type in the following command: npm init. Okay, I'm just gonna stay with the default, so I'm just gonna give the flag of y. Okay, so this will create a package.json file inside your server. Okay, so you can just see package.json. So this is like an ingredients list for your application, which we can actually download it using the node package manager, that is npm. Okay, so we have all of this, and now we can just install some of the packages that we might that we actually need in our to build our backend server. Okay, so okay, I actually did a mistake. I forgot to check into the server directory. So we need to make sure that we are in the right directory, and then we type the following command. Okay, that is npm init. So this will create a package.json inside your server directory. So you can just delete this one which we created in our root directory. Okay, so now we have all of these set up, and now we can install a few of the packages which I will be typing it out for you all. So npm install, we are gonna use the express framework. Okay, that MERN Stack, E stands for express, right? So express. Okay, and then we'll be using the mongoose library, mongoose. And so as I told you, to in order to communicate seamlessly between our database and our server. And then we have .env. Okay, so this is to store all the environment variables, so that you don't expose it to production, or when you're uploading your code to github. Okay, and we can just for now install all of these dependencies, and let's actually wait for it. Okay, so now our packages have been installed, and you can just see it has added two more files. One is a folder for node modules, which will store all of your dependencies internally. We are actually not going to touch this. Okay, and also this package log.json, so that will create internally for you. We'll only be dealing with the package.json and rest of the files that we will be creating. Okay, so let's create our entry point for our server. So let's create a file called server.js. You can just name this anything, that doesn't matter. Server.js. Okay, and now let's go to a package.json file, and instead of like main, it's set to by default to index.js, and I'm going to change that to server.js. Okay, and also I'm going to use the ES6 module syntax. Okay, we also have something called common JS syntax. So common JS syntax is like something like const something is equal to require and something. Okay, so like const abc equals require. So I just want that syntax. I will be sticking to the import from that we actually be using in our React app. Okay, so we can just use the following thing. Okay, like import something from something, like that. So we can just for that we just need to go to a package.json file, and we just need to uh, give this a type of module. Okay, type, and set this to module. Okay, so we have common JS, and then we have module. Okay, so I'm going to set this for to module. And actually this doesn't interpret any kind of like file extension. So by default, when you're using common JS modules, it we do not have to specify the extension name like .js. But if you're using ES modules, so we have to, whichever files we are bringing in, we have to add in the extension as well, like data.js or anything. But in common JS module, we can just bring in the data, just the file name. Okay, so I'm just gonna import few of the things. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring in express. So const express equals express. Import express. Okay, like that, from express. Okay, so now I'm going to initialize express. So I can just give it a store it inside a variable called app equals express, and I'm just going to invoke it. Okay, so now we can perform various things using this app method, like app.listen. Like let's say we want to run it on a specific port. Okay, so on that particular port we want to run the server. Okay, so we can just type app.listen. Okay, and then we want to configure it using port 5000. Okay, port 5000, and then I'm gonna run a callback, okay, saying that uh, let's log something to the console. Okay, let's say server, okay, I'm bad at typing, sorry. Server is running on port 5000. Okay, so let's save that, and let's start our app. Okay, so we can just go to the terminal, and in order to like start our application, we just need to write a particular script, okay, for this. And we can just, I'm just gonna call it just start. Okay, okay, that you start is by default. You just don't have to type npm run start or anything. You can just type in npm start in order to run the application. So what I'm just going to do is node, I'm just going to type node server.js, or you can just leave it at node server. Okay, so I'm just going to my terminal, and typing npm start. So you can just see we have in our console that server is running on port 5000. So since this is a backend, we are not actually running it on the front end. Okay, so all our console logs will be displayed here in our terminal. Okay, so let's say for any change I make, okay, let's say I change this to 8000. Okay, so if I save this, so this will not refresh, so this will keep running on the same port. Okay, so I just need to like turn off the server, and then start it again, like again npm start, and this will change the message from the server is running on port 8000. Okay, so in order to prevent this, and in order to have an instant refresh whenever we make a change in our application, we are going to install a small package in our dev dependencies. Okay, that is called nodemon. Okay, so let's turn off the server. Okay, type yes, and I'm going to install a package. Okay, npm install, and I'm going to save this as a dev dependency. Okay, so I'm giving the flag dash capital D, and giving it and going to install nodemon. Okay, so this will constantly be monitoring our file changes. If there's any change in the files, it will automatically refresh reload the server. Okay, so hit enter. Okay, so now we have our nodemon setup. So we can go to a package.json, and we can just see whatever the packages that we have installed. So we installed these three earlier, that is .env, express, and mongoose, and this is dev dependencies, that is nodemon. Okay, so dev dependencies are like basically when we push to production, so these packages won't be included. Okay, so we only need this during development. Okay, so once we push it to production, we actually do not need this. So to configure nodemon, we just need to go to package.json, and I'm going to add another script over here, and call this let's say dev. Okay, so this will start our developments, keep constantly monitoring our files. So you can just say, instead of node, we can just call it nodemon and then server. Okay, and usually this is the convention, like when we are pushing to production, we only just give it a command of start. Okay, so we do not want to constantly like look for files, because we are not going to develop anything further, right? So that's why. So now let's actually test this. So we can go to our terminal and just type in npm run dev. Okay, so this will run this specific command, that is nodemon server. You can just see over here what is it actually doing, and this is running on port 8000. Let's say I change this back to 5000, and so you can just see it restarted the server due to changes, and now it will like show the updated content. Okay, so this is basically everything. So this is nothing but like boilerplate code, like for every MERN Stack application or any backend server which you are building using like Node and Express. So this is the convention that you actually use. So convention or the boilerplate code which you actually need to set up before you start a backend server. Okay, so now another thing which I want to configure is the .env file. So Basically these are files that when you actually push your code to GitHub, so these are the files which you include in the .env file which we will be creating. So those files will be ignored, okay, by basically by a file called .git ignore that also we will be using. So now let's bring in the .env package. So I'm just going to import .env from .env, okay, and then I'm going to initialize it. So what we just need to do is .env config, okay, so we just need to invoke it. So this will configure our .env files for the whole backend. So that starts with, so that is actually connected to server.js. So if something that is not connected to server.js, we just need to configure that for that particular file, okay. So we just need to keep this in mind. And then for now what we can just do is we can initialize this port, okay. So this port can run anywhere, okay. So for that, so let's say when you're deploying we want to run this on another port, so we can just like just write a const port variable, okay. We can just set this initially to 5000, okay, and later when we are deploying, so it can just set it to any other port, okay. So instead of 5000, instead of hard coding, I can just I can just like paste in this particular variable over here, and this particular thing, okay. So instead of 5000 I can also run it on like any other thing. So this 5000 I do not have to hard code it, I can just write it in a separate .env file, okay. So I can just create .env, and I can just type in the port, okay, port equals 5000, okay. So this information will be confidential, okay. So like any like connection string or any sensitive information that your basically your application contains, right, like your MongoDB connection string, which we will also be adding later, and any kind of like secret keys, okay, we will be configuring, we'll be putting everything into in this .env file, okay. And we can just close this for now. And here we can just go to a server, we can just go to process.env, okay, dot port, okay. So this is basically an object, okay, which contains inside this project process object, okay. Inside that it has a property called env, and where all our environment variables are actually stored, okay. So in case if this doesn't actually like couldn't fetch, we are going to by default run it on port 5000, okay, like that. And instead of hard coding this, we can just use a dynamic string. So this is called a template literal, okay, and we can just put in the particular value, okay, of let's say this variable from where the value is coming from, okay. So you can just see the server is now running on port 5000, but we do not know from where is the value actually coming from. So let's delete this and let's have a look, okay. So it's coming undefined because I set this I didn't actually configure this properly. So what I'm going to do now is, so the reason is whenever we play around with our .env files, we just need to restart our server, okay. So whenever you add or remove .env, don't forget to like restart your server. So that's why I'm getting undefined. So if I just restart my server and type in npm run dev to start my backend server, and now you can just see, you can, it still says undefined. It still shows undefined. That is because I am stupid, because I need to drag this inside the server folder, okay. So now we just need to try it once again, and hopefully it works. Yeah, there we go. So servers running on port 5000, and then we can just put this back to 5000 in case if this doesn't work, or whenever we are pushing it to production, okay. So so that's done. So now in order to prevent all our sensitive information, that is the .env and few other files like .modules, .node modules, sorry, just node modules, to be to be sent to the GitHub. So we can just create another file with a specific name called .git ignore, okay. So So this will disregard all of the files that we basically enter inside this. Okay, so I just do want to push in the .env files and also the node modules files. Okay, node underscore modules, make sure the spelling is same as the one which of the matching file or the folder. Okay, so if I save this, and you can just see the node modules file and the .env file have been grayed out, which means that these files are no longer tracked and will not be considered when we push them to GitHub. Okay, so yeah, so now what we will do is we will send a simple response such that if someone hits that particular route, we send them back some information. Okay, so let's do that. So we write app dot, we say that app dot send, sorry, it's not send, it is app.get. Okay, so whenever we make a get request to let's say slash, okay, localhost like port 5000 that we have configured, whenever if someone hits this route, we just want to send them a particular response. Okay, so this is a callback function which accepts two parameters, one is request and one is response. You can just call them rec and res. Okay, so for that I am just going to return, okay, I'm just going to say app dot send. Okay, and I'm just going to send a string of, let's say, API is running. Okay, just like that. So now if I save this, and now let's go to this particular route and let's see our response. Okay, so I have opened up my browser here, and it says that app.send is not a function. Okay, so it's actually not app.send. Okay, so it is res.send. Okay, so we are sending a response, right? So by using this parameter we are sending a response that API is running. Okay, so my bad. So let's refresh. In this see API is running, we just get a simple text. Okay, so using this we can say we can just go back and forth with our responses and requests, and then we can just pass on information from the front end and back end. Okay. Okay, so in the next video, we will be creating a particular route, let's say slash API slash products, okay, in order to fetch all of the products from the backend, and the products that we are actually statically pulling out from our front end. Okay, so that will be completely deleting it, and we will be fetching it from the backend by using various methods. Okay, so that we will be doing it next, and let's jump into the next video.